I'm so excited to have the opportunity to introduce the 51st Attorney General of the great state of Texas. And he's someone that's no stranger to our state and to people involved in faith and family issues. He served in the state legislature for the state of Texas from the McKinney and Allen areas. As a matter of fact, I was a constituent of his many years ago when I was working for Liberty Institute. And so we got to know each other then. And then he moved on to the Texas Senate, where he was elected. And so then he had opportunities to go even further. He is a graduate of Baylor University, right here in the great state of Texas, not far from here, and then received his law degree from the University of Virginia. And, you know, but when you think about Texas, you think about Texas taking leadership on important roles and issues like faith and family. And so a lot of people don't realize that not only does Texas get involved in court cases, but they get involved in court cases where they also have other states join them and get involved in litigation. And that is one of the most important things that our Attorney General does. And so when you think about not only Texas, we think about Texas and we take a leadership role. And we're expected to do that, right? As I said yesterday, you know, it ain't bragging if it's true, right? We think about what we do in Texas, but it's a responsibility as well that we embrace. Because we know the impact that we can have sometimes in Texas, other states can't. But when we band together, when we get other states to get involved in what we do, we're stronger and more united together. And that is one of the most important things that our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, does. But let me just tell you a little bit about him personally. You know, he's a very, very strong and committed Christian. And that comes first for him. Family comes first as well. And so, you know, he is a proud parent along with his wife, Angela, of 4 children, and you'll often see him getting around as much as he can to get to events, to spend time with his family, his children, to spend time with his church and worship. That's where it starts for us. For so many of our elected officials in the state of Texas, it starts with faith and family. But those things are what drives them and compels them to be in public service, to do what they do. And so he has distinguished himself quite well in the area of faith and family. There's no question. We know a few years ago when the Obama administration tried to force public schools to allow boys into the girls' bathroom, he said no to that. His team got together. His team got together and filed a lawsuit on behalf of a school district and won in court. And because the Obama administration was trying to institute that policy nationwide, the federal judge here in Texas said that the ruling against that would also apply nationwide. So not only did it protect privacy and safety of our students in Texas, it protected the privacy and safety of students all across the country. That's the impact that we have in Texas. But it's also true that when it comes to religious freedom, that Attorney General Ken Paxton is a leader. You've seen this case recently with the cheerleaders that have been fighting for years to have banners at football games with their own private message of encouragement as the players take the field. That is something he's been a part of supporting. That is a victory at the Texas Supreme Court and many other levels of religious liberty where the government cannot restrict their right to have their own private messages for our cheerleaders at a football game. A tremendous religious liberty victory. And here most recently, when an issue went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the government in Colorado was trying to force and punish a private business owner, Jack Phillips, a Christian cake baker, trying to force him to use his business to support a message with his artistic talents or a wedding cake that he disagreed with. He was ready to serve, and he served all people. He just didn't want to create a certain message when it comes to his arts and his bake shop, and that includes other issues, not just the marriage issue. The government fined him and really was putting him in a position to put him out of business. And we've had a bakery in Texas that has had similar attacks from private people on this same type of issue. So Attorney General Ken Paxton stood with that cake baker and got other states to get involved, filed a brief at the U.S. Supreme Court. That case was decided in June. Victory for religious liberty for that Christian cake baker. That is the type of leadership that we have with our Attorney General Ken Paxton. So you're not here to hear me talk about him, or even though I enjoy doing that, you want to hear from him specifically. And if you didn't know anything about Attorney General Ken Paxton, if there's one thing I would say you might have known about him, if you weren't sure about his background and history, you might have heard what his wife says, that, and that's Angela Paxton, when she talks about her description, that she's a pistol-packing mama, and her husband sues Obama. That might be how you know about Attorney General Ken Paxton. So with that, let us welcome to our stage Texas Attorney General, my friend Ken Paxton.
Thank you. So, I don't know how to say it. I'm so excited to be here. I'm grateful for what you all do. So often I see conservative organizations veer off. They veer off because they have a big donor that wants them to do something different than their mission, or they have relationships and they want to keep those relationships. There's just all kinds of factors that cause organizations to slowly veer from their mission. Whatever, even if it's a great mission, it's very challenging to stick to the core of why you exist. And this organization, with Jonathan's leadership and the people that were just up on as team members and board members, has done a really amazing job of sticking to your core mission. And that's why I think you guys make such a huge difference, because you're respected because you stick to your mission. And so I just want to encourage you to continue to do that, because it's not the norm. And it is just so easy to veer off to something else, or to be influenced by a donation or whatever. So thank you all for doing that. Jonathan mentioned that we are in Austin, and I have had to move here. And as Jonathan was talking about, I represented people in the House and Senate in Collin County and North Dallas. I remember when Rick Perry had kind of a not as good year, where there were a bunch of people running against a bunch of independents. He got 39% of the vote. And it was my worst year, I got 72% of the vote. So that tells you how Republican my district was. And the Democrats were excited that I only got 72% of the vote. So they thought they were making progress. So I always tell people that when I moved down here, when I became Attorney General, a lot of my friends were, really concerned about me living in Travis County, living in Austin. But, it's very different than Collin County. Obviously, Democratic, pretty liberal, pretty weird. And so I've been living here really for the last 3.5 years, and I've been telling people it's not that bad living in Austin, because it's not that far from Texas. So that one always works, even in Austin. I saw Cole Hefner out there. What a great guy. Cole used to sleep on my couch before he became a state rep when he was a commissioner, and for some crazy reason he decided he wanted to do this job that pays him $600 a month. He's doing a great job. And then I know you guys are going to get to hear from Kelly. Where's Kelly? Hancock. He's coming in, but he was my desk mate for years. Hey, Kelly. So Kelly and I actually knew each other at Baylor, and we had the opportunity to be desk mates in the House, and we moved over to the Senate. He's doing a great job, and you guys are in for a treat. I'm just really kind of his warm-up today. So I just want to cover 3 issues really quickly. I know it's a Saturday morning. I don't want to cover every case we've done in the last 3.5 years, but we've really focused on various issues, and these haven't been really typical issues for attorney generals. Attorney generals have typically viewed themselves as consumer protection, representing the state in litigation. We have plenty of that. We deal with consumer protection every day. We have 35,000 cases going at any one time. We do child support. We have 1.5 to 1.6 million cases going at any one time. We have 4,200 employees. We have 800 lawyers, and there's a lot of stuff going on. Typically, some of the issues that we focused on have not, and I'm not saying typically, maybe never, has an Attorney General's office focused so much on the 3 issues that I'm going to talk about. Pro-life issue. I'll talk about that one first. The pro-life issue is, I think, one that most AGs just wouldn't think of as they're walking into office. This is what I'm going to deal with. But Texas legislature has done an amazing job of passing legislation. And of course, the way things work today, if you pass good legislation by your duly elected representatives, the left always sues in a liberal court. So over the last couple of months, we have been defending the defunding of Planned Parenthood, which was actually done through the governor's office. Thank you, Governor Abbott. And just like always, just like every case we have, they file in a liberal court, and guess what? We lose. And then we have to appeal to the Fifth Circuit. So again, with the Planned defund, which we believe is perfectly legitimate because they are doing some things that are illegal, including promoting the sale of, we believe, fetal tissue and promoting different types of abortion methods that we think are illegal. Anyway, we are on the Fifth Circuit once again, just like we have been with so many cases. I totally believe that what the governor did was correct and legal, and we'll continue to defend that. Kelly and Cole also voted on a bill, the dismemberment bill, which is a horrific procedure where they dismember babies. And so they passed a bill saying you can't do that after 20 weeks. And so we have been defending that. We also, unfortunately, lost at the district court, which is exactly what we expected to do. We go in, we try to set up a good trial record. That one is also on appeal to the Fifth Circuit. And by the way, it's been basically stopped for now. So this is very typical. We also have gotten involved in outside of Texas abortion issues. We just filed an amicus brief a few months ago on a case that was in California where California was trying to force pro-life pregnancy centers to advertise for abortion centers. Insane. And so we filed an amicus brief. We got 20 other states involved, and we filed an amicus brief, and the U.S. Supreme Court just ruled in our favor. So it was an amazing victory. We also had a case that was really interesting. The concern we have is that Texas would become a sanctuary for abortion. Just like we talk about sanctuary cities, the federal government, to their credit, fought this. And it was a case where we had internationals coming across our border and then demanding that they wanted an abortion in Texas. And so the federal government fought that under the Trump administration. They fought it up all the way to the Court of Appeals, and we had lost. And we actually thought that they were going to appeal. And apparently they had some agreement with Planned Parenthood or the other side that there was a certain amount of time that they were going to wait, and then they quickly did this abortion and got it approved. So, but that is a continuing battle. If this occurs again, we're not going to let that happen. We'll be intervening and not wait on the federal government to do what they told us to do. So the reality is we're going to be fighting that as we go along, and I don't think that's something typically that you've seen Texas Attorney Generals or other Attorney Generals have so much involvement in. The second issue is religious liberty. I can tell you that very few AGs have ever dealt with religious liberty issues. And part of the reason that we focused on these abortion issues, religious liberty issues, is because I view my responsibility as Texas Attorney General fairly broad, in the sense that I don't want to go outside of what is allowed by statute, specifically given to me. But we also have the Constitution, and the first thing that I do when I get sworn in is I swear to uphold the Constitution. So to me, that involves First Amendment, that involves religious liberty. So I didn't anticipate this area being so prolific for us, but I'll bet we've been involved in 20 cases since I've been in office. The very first, one of my favorites, it was dealing with the Children's Police Department. They asked for an opinion because this outside religious group, anti-religious group, didn't want them to put in God We Trust on their vehicles. And so the Children's Police Department asked for an opinion, can we do this? It was a very short opinion, about a page and a half, and it basically relied on, well, this is our national motto. It's on our coins, it's on our currency. It's pretty easy to defend. And so we issued the opinion, and the other side went away. And there's nothing that makes me happier than to drive around Texas, and it's not just the Children's Police Department now, but I see it on vehicles in other counties now. So seeing God We Trust and let religious liberty reign, in Texas at least, you can put a God We Trust on vehicles and you're free. So. And one of my favorite cases is one that we did work with you guys on. It was the one up in Belton with the staffer that at school had, yeah, it's you. There you are. Yeah. Well, were you in the court hearing when that happened? It was really amazing. So we had issued a letter once we heard from you guys about this case to the school district saying, and it wasn't really just designed for the school district. I wanted to send a message across to every school district, and the message was this: we are willing to defend you if you ask us. We can step in if you ask us. If you're being challenged, if you're worried about having to spend a bunch of money on defending religious liberty, then we'll do it. So don't worry about the cost. And I wanted to send that message to every school so they couldn't use the excuse that it was going to cost them too much money to defend religious liberty. So we offered that. And of course, after the principal banned her from putting this scripture up and this Charlie Brown Christmas thing that she had on her wall, the school board had a vote. We wanted them to know, hey, we'll defend her. And of course, they voted like 6-1 against her, made her take it down. So the next morning, we were in court suing them with you guys. So I also wanted them to know, hey, we'll defend you, but if you do the wrong thing, we'll also sue you. And I have to admit, I wasn't actually in the courtroom, but my lawyers and Jonathan told me that it seemed like things were going well when the district court judge walked in with a Christmas tithe. It seemed like things were going our way. So. Jonathan also noted the masterpiece case that we filed an amicus brief. An amicus brief is a friend of the court brief. It's where you step in and you try to help the court make the right decision. And if you can come as Texas and you can add other states to it, you get some attention. People pay attention to what we do, and especially if we're walking in with 20 other states or 14 other states. We had another case very similar to the Arlene Flowers case, which was a case out of Oregon where a woman was being forced to provide flowers for a wedding that she didn't agree with that was same-sex. And so this masterpiece case was important to us because, again, it's about the Constitution. It's about fundamental rights that if we lose, nothing else matters. I can defend the state, but if we don't have our freedoms, our religious freedoms, our First Amendment speech freedoms, what does all of that matter? And so we organized a 20-state coalition. We made our case, and fortunately, the U.S. Supreme Court overwhelmingly, 7-2, sided with Jack Phillips and told Colorado Commission of Human Rights, or whatever that group is called, that they could not force him to sell photography or cakes to anybody that he disagreed with religiously. And so the odd thing is, after such a great victory, they came back and they're challenging him again on the very same issue. So they don't give up. But what they need to know is we're not going to give up either. And so it's... And I could literally stand up here and keep you busy all day with just the religious liberty cases that we filed the last year. We have one that's ongoing. We filed an amicus brief in. It's down in Montgomery County, where a judge would bring in visiting chaplains, different denominations. They would pray. And the same group that was challenging Children's Police Department came in and sued him. So we stepped into that case as well. Now, again, you can say, what does the state of Texas care about that? Well, we care about religious liberty, because that is a constitutional freedom that, again, I swore to uphold. And so I don't think this is going away for us. If I get reelected, we're going to see 4 more years of fighting on those 2 issues for sure. And really what this comes down to is something that I knew I would be fighting when I stepped into office, and that's really fundamentally this whole idea of the Constitution and what our framers were trying to set up. And when I came into office, Governor Abbott had sued, then Attorney General Abbott had sued the federal government 31 times. If you remember, he loved to say, I get up in the morning, I go into the office, I sue the federal government, I go home. And I always, he sued 31 times in 6 years. Just to know, we sued 27 times in 2 years. So we were catching up. And I really didn't want to pass him, because if I was passing him, that meant that Hillary won. So I'll give the governor his due. So he does tell me, though, that I've sued Trump more than him. So we have sued Trump about, I think it's 11 times. 10 of those were over policies left over from the Obama administration. And just so you know, I'll tell you the most recent story. He actually encouraged me. When I was talking to him when he came to the Santa Fe shooting, he said, "Hey Ken, he got off the plane, he just looked at me, I don't want to defend Obamacare, what do I do?" Like, I'm suing him, and he's asking me what to do. So you should join us. And actually, they have. They've joined us. So, So I think, Jonathan mentioned one of our huge cases, the whole issue with the bathroom. It was interesting because when that first hit, it was basically the federal government, the Department of Education, coming in to tell our schools, hey, you have to change all your rules on bathrooms. You have to let girls and boys shower together, stay in the same hotel rooms when they're traveling, share locker rooms, bathrooms. It was, and in that guidance, it said you shouldn't be influenced by teachers, parents, or community leaders that think differently. And if you don't follow this, we're going to take away all your federal funds. Now, they literally changed statute that Congress had passed. So initially when I was presenting this to the other AGs, hey, let's do this, no one wanted to touch it. It's too controversial. And so we stepped out and we ultimately talked 12 states into going with this. And so we filed our lawsuit in Texas, and then I went on TV. And a lot of people were really nervous about me talking about this issue. And all we focused on was two things. No matter what they brought up, I would always bring it back to, this is the Constitution, the president can't change the law. And if we start allowing him to change the law on this, then any president can change the law. And two, school safety. Two issues. That's all I ever talk about. Before long, we ended up with another lawsuit in Nebraska filed by the Nebraska AG. He copied our complaint. So we ended up with, I think, 25, 26 states involved in this. And the reason the TV thing worked to motivate some of these other AGs is people like you in their states saw me talking about it and they started asking their AG why they weren't a part of this lawsuit. So we went from a suit that initially no one wanted to be a part of to 26 states. And we ended up with a preliminary injunction stopping this nationwide, as Jonathan said, so that our schools couldn't be forced or threatened. And this was just the beginning. They were literally this was going to be adopted nationwide with the force of law, even though it had never been passed by Congress. And so we also had another case that you might not be as familiar with. They were, through a rule, they were trying to change the law to force doctors against their own religious beliefs, their own even medical beliefs, to do same-sex surgeries and abortions. Like, you have to do it or Medicaid funding is going to be cut off to your state. So the Obama administration was leveraging children, people in need, to get this crazy policy change. So we again sued them, and it was just another example where they made up law, and we, again, got a preliminary injunction and stopped it again from happening nationwide. This happened to us, like I said, 27 times. We almost always won. Sometimes, and the strategy was they'd always file a liberal court first, we'd lose, and we'd take it to the Fifth Circuit or the U.S. Supreme Court, and we'd ultimately prevail. And it's something that fundamentally that I think most Americans missed. And I think it's important for you guys to really think about this going forward, because you guys have made a huge difference. And I believe that Texas saved the country in two ways. The first way that we saved is filing all these lawsuits. Between Greg Abbott and I, 58 lawsuits in 8 years. It's a lot of lawsuits against the federal government, and successful over and over and over. And so all these other states watched us lead. They watched our talent go toe-to-toe with the Department of Justice every single day. We kept winning and winning and winning. When we were winning so much, I was getting tired of it. Not really. So the first thing that's kind of remarkable is that it's the first time in U.S. history that states stood up to the federal government. Why do we have to do that? Because we were in a horrible spot. Congress, much to our dissatisfaction, could have stopped all of this stuff, all of these crazy regulations that the Obama administration was running through either agencies or just running it through executive orders, all unconstitutional, all moving power to the executive branch, all violating separation of powers, which our founders so deeply cared about. And why do they care about it? Because they didn't trust power in the hands of one person, or even a few. So they diffused it among 3 branches of government, and they left the rest to us, the states. And so Congress is in this position where they could have stopped everything Obama did, and guess what? They wouldn't do it. I even went and met with them shortly after I got into office. I met with them in February. I met with about 50 U.S. Republican senators. They have this weekly lunch that Mike Lee hosts up in the Capitol somewhere. And they gave me like 15 minutes to talk. And I said, look, I've got this immigration case. I should win. We just started. We hadn't even had our first hearing. I said, but we're right on the Constitution. We're right on the law. There's no way that the Obama administration can change immigration law. However, if I get a bad judge, a liberal judge, or I get a liberal Fifth Circuit panel, I could lose. But what I've always learned is that if you can attack a problem more than one way, you should do it. Especially with you guys. You guys have the ability to end this by just defunding everything he's doing, including this. So I'm encouraging you to defund this. And they politely listened. They said, you're doing a great job. We agree with you. We'll support you, but we won't defund. That was Mitch McConnell sitting there. That was John McCain. That was the leadership telling me no. And so we went out and had to go win. And we did. So by Texas, using our talent, our resources, our desire, and leading these states, we won that immigration case. And every other state saw we had the ability to fight, and so they joined us lawsuit after lawsuit, to varying degrees. Quick example, we only got 6. In 2015, I filed an Obamacare lawsuit, because we argued that they were taxing the states to keep Obamacare alive. And we argued that it was unconstitutional for the federal government to tax states. And so just like a week and a half ago, we were in federal court up in Fort Worth, and we got a victory. And this judge, by the way, only 5 states joined me. This judge ordered that IRS had to pay the 6 states about $840 million. It's a lot of money. Texas got back, we're going to get back over $300 million. And by the way, it's not just that we're going to get $300 million back, now every year we don't have to pay that. So this is a lot of money. So I can tell you the 5 states that joined are very happy with me right now. I was just in Louisiana helping Jeff Landry. He's an amazing attorney general from Louisiana. His state, now we got 305 or so million. His state got 174 million. Think about what that does for their budget. And so all these other states that didn't file, too bad. So the reality is you all made a difference, first of all, by allowing me to go fight, allowing Governor Abbott to go fight to stop this from occurring. But the second part of our victory was electing Donald Trump. And why do I say that? Because when we get this immigration case was the first one. We ended up with we've had 11 U.S. Supreme Court arguments since I've been in office. By the way, that means my Solicitor General has now argued more Supreme Court cases than any other Solicitor General in Texas history. 11. The closest was Ted Cruz. I think he had 7. So it's been amazing. But this case set the stage because we not only showed that we could win, but then when we got there, what was really unusual is we lost Scalia, and we'd wanted the Fifth Circuit, we wanted the trial court to stop this from going into effect. We got a preliminary injunction, so this whole immigration thing is stopped. We get to the U.S. Supreme Court, Scalia's gone, we're worried. Kennedy's going to decide it again. And we get a 4-4 tie, which means we win because the Fifth Circuit case stood. And so by stopping that, we stopped all this stuff and we proved that we could do it. But think about what that meant. There were 4 judges that told us that it was okay for the president to change the law. So what that meant was all these fights we're having, the 58 lawsuits filed by Texas, we're winning, winning, winning. But if we get an election where we get Hillary Clinton and we don't get Neil Gorsuch, we get another Ruth Bader Ginsburg, game over. Separation of power is gone. This idea that the states have power, gone. Congress's power being wiped out along with the court's power. We were so close to the verge, and everybody thought, of course, that Hillary was going to win. But for Texas, she does win. And so I believe you guys saved America. Now we have to save Texas. And that's the reality where we're at. This battle, everybody always thinks we're in the worst times of all. The Constitution is under assault more than it ever has been. Maybe it is. But I truly believe this is every generation's problem. And every generation has to decide, are they going to step up and defend what our Constitution says, the liberties that have made this country great, that have given us opportunities, both with religious freedom and economic freedom and all kinds of freedoms that no nation has ever known. And look at the result. But I don't think we're any different. What's different about this, though, is that I believe it's the first time that Texas has the weight and responsibility of determining the direction of the nation forever. And if we're not successful, and it's a relatively small group of people like you that affect who we elect and the type of leaders that we put in place. And so it's remarkable the impact that you have with your dollars and with your time and with your influence. It's not just affecting Texas. Now, we have to survive in Texas or we do lose the whole country. So we are going to have to keep doing that election after election, because if we don't, there's nobody else to do it. And I cannot imagine what the last 10 years would have looked like but for Texas. Take us out of the equation, and this nation is completely different. The values that you guys are fighting for, we probably lose all of them. And all these freedoms that our founders cared about are gone. So I'm here, one, to tell you that story, and tell you that we're going to continue to fight, And thank you for the opportunity of giving me that fight, the opportunity to give me the chance to fight, and electing people like Cole Heckler and Kelly Hancock who will pass legislation that represents our values, that represents our Constitution. But you can't quit, and you can't be discouraged, because you really, truly are making a difference. And I would just encourage you to not get tired of winning, because we are winning. Thank you all very much.